What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video. Today we have our updated college basketball power rankings heading into week 15 of college basketball. Last week we had our number 1 and our number 2 team go down, so there could be quite a few changes, even within the top 10 this week. So I'm ready to get started. Just want to say subscribe if you guys are new. We do a ton of college basketball content here on the channel, so make sure you guys go check it out. And without further ado, let's get it started. Hey guys, as always, here is the entire rankings list for week 15 of college basketball. Power 35 with some teams on the watch list, and let's get started. Still, our number 1 team in the country is the Auburn Tigers. I know that they did lose at home against Florida, and Florida didn't have Elijah Martin, but still, I don't feel like that loss, being their second loss in the season and their first one in conference play, even though it was at home as well, I don't think it was enough for me, at least, to move Auburn down at all. They're still holding strong as the number 1 team, and they do play my number 2 team, Alabama, next Saturday. So before we get to our next rankings list for week 16, my current number 1 and my number 2 will be going head to head, and the winner of that game most likely will be number 1, either once again if it is Auburn, or the new number 1 if it is Alabama next week. That is going to be a absolutely massive game, and there is quite a debate, in my opinion, between having Alabama number 2 and Duke number 2, but I did decide to move Duke down to number 3, move Alabama up from number 3 up to number 2, and I'm going to explain my reasoning. I can completely understand if you guys would have Duke over them, even though Duke did just lose to Clemson on the road. Not a horrible loss. Clemson is a really good team. It was on the road. Duke's first loss in a very, very long time, and only their 3rd loss on the season. But Alabama and Duke both have 3 losses on the year, and I do really like Alabama's wins. They have wins over Houston. They're 9-1 in the SEC. They only have 1 loss in SEC play, whereas opposed to Duke, 1 loss in ACC play. And I know Duke has the massive win over Auburn at home, which is one of the biggest wins of the season. But Alabama, I still think, being 9-1, being one of 2 teams with Auburn that are 9-1 in the SEC, by far the best conference in college basketball. I feel like Alabama at this point deserves the number 2 right now, so I did decide to move Duke down to number 3, but there is very much so a debate, and I would not be mad whatsoever if you guys did say Duke deserves to be number 2 still over Alabama. But my number 4 and my number 5, both holding their spots strong. Purdue at number 4, Houston at number 5. Both teams looked pretty good this past week. Didn't play the best teams in their conference, but they were able to beat the teams that they were supposed to and hold their spots there in the top 5. Number 6, we do have Florida, who got one of the biggest wins of the season, beating Auburn, who only lost twice this year, and the only team to beat them at home in the jungle. Huge win, and without one of their better players, Elijah Martin. This Florida team is outstanding. Walter Clayton Jr. is one of the better point guards in the country, especially scoring-wise, and he can really carry this team deep into the tournament. I'm very excited to see what they are able to do. But not only that, their front court is a very good rebounding team and a very good offensive rebounding team, and they make the right play. Florida, they put their foot on the gas, especially in that second half. When at the end of that first half, when they took the lead, they didn't look back, and they kept their foot on the pedal, and they just looked like they wanted it way more than Auburn. We'll see how Auburn bounces back from that. But right now, Florida definitely ups 3 spots here to number 6, and honestly, I could see them being a little bit higher than this, but I feel like 6 is a good spot for them right now, but I could definitely see them being a top 5 team. Number 7, we do have Tennessee staying in the same spot. They got a couple of really good wins. Missouri at home, very good win, and also beating Oklahoma. So they did what they were supposed to do in that one against Oklahoma. Also held strong home court against Missouri. Tennessee here at number 7. Number 8, we do have Arizona. They avenged one of their losses there against Texas Tech. I thought that was very impressive. Hold strong, another big win there for Arizona. They're staying put here at number 8, 2-0 week, but I didn't find any room to move them up. Number 9, we do have Texas A&M. They only played one game this week, and that was against Missouri on the road. Very impressed with Texas A&M. They are jumping up one spot to number 9 because, in my opinion, Missouri, one of the harder places to play in college basketball, honestly. I mean, playing on the road in the SEC is just hard in itself. Playing on the road in general in college basketball is just very hard, but to win that one, very impressive. Texas A&M definitely deserves to be a top 10 team at this point. And then one of my bigger risers, one of the teams that I was most impressed with this week is St. John's. And they're going to be on the thumbnail this week because they beat not just the two of the better teams in the Big East this year, but the back-to-back national champions and the two teams that have been the top teams in that league for the past 2 or 3 years, and that being Marquette and UConn. Those two teams have been dominating that Big East Conference, so to see St. John's just come in, beat both of them, and overtake the top spot in the Big East, very, very impressive, and in my opinion, deserve to be a top 10 team at this point. And they're coming in here at number 10, jumping up 6 spots. Number 11, we do have Texas Tech. Staying still here, they did beat Baylor earlier in the week, and then Saturday they lost on the road to Arizona. They also beat Arizona, though, this year when they played them at home, so I didn't feel any need to move them down. They didn't get beat bad in that game. They were in it. Number 11 feels right for Texas Tech right now. Number 12, we do have Memphis. They got one win this week against Tulsa. They are up 2 spots. They're on a nice little win streak. Only one loss in their conference, and they have some big wins on the season. Very impressive resume. You're at number 12. Number 13, we do have Iowa State dropping one more spot. They took another loss this week to Kansas, and I know that was on the road. It was a tough place to play. That was actually the best game that I've seen Kansas play this year. But they did bounce back with a win over TCU, looked more like themselves, so we'll see if they can get back on the roll and get back into the top 10 next week. Number 14, we do have Michigan State. They are dropping one spot, kind of similar to Iowa State. They cut their cold streak going early in the week, losing to UCLA. Bounced back later in the week on Saturday with a big win over Oregon. Comeback fashion. They were down a little bit early around halftime in that game. Really looked like themselves again in that second half, and hopefully they'll bounce back again like Iowa State, continue playing like they did on Saturday, and they can get back into the top 10. Number 15, we do have Clemson jumping up 2 spots here. They did go 1-1 on the week. A loss to Georgia Tech early in the week. Not good, but they jump up because they got a huge win against the Duke Blue Devils this week. So jumping up 2 spots, even with the 1-1 record on the week, here at number 15. Number 16, we do have the Louisville Cardinals, and 2 good wins. I mean, if you want to call them good wins. They went 2-0. They did what they were supposed to do against 2 of the worser teams in the ACC, against Boston College and against Miami, but they got it done. So they're here at number 16, jumping up 3 spots. Number 17, we do have Kentucky. Now, I know that Kentucky did beat Louisville earlier in the year, so there could be some controversy with that ranking, but one head-to-head matchup doesn't apply to the entire of the rankings, so you could swap those. I am just now realizing, yeah, they did play each other, so you could have Kentucky above Louisville, and that would be fine, but I do have Louisville 16, Kentucky 17, but they dropped 2 spots this week, taking another loss to Ole Miss. Just been on a little bit of a cold streak lately. I am keeping them in my top 20. They went 1-1 on the week, so I still think they're a top 20 team. Number 18, we do have Missouri. I think that I definitely overhyped them a little bit last week, but they were on a huge hot streak in the best conference in college basketball, so I had to hype them up, give them a ranking I thought that they deserved, but this is kind of a readjustment here because they did go 0-2 against 2 really good teams. On the road against Tennessee, they didn't lose by that much. They were in that game. Missouri definitely deserves to still be a top 20 team. But then they lost at home to Texas A&M, one that they probably should have held on to, but was unable to. And yeah, they're dropping 12 spots here at number 18. Kind of a readjustment. I think that they're a top 20, maybe top 15 team, but 18 feels right for this week, coming off a 0-2 week. 19 here, we got Wisconsin. Wisconsin's been quietly one of the more impressive teams in the Big Ten, in my opinion. I think they're a sleeper to make like an Elite 8 run this year. I kind of like them a lot. But I got them here at 19 jumping into the top 20 once again. I feel like they jump in and out of the top 20 like every other week. So here they are back in the top 20 at 19. Number 20, we do have Creighton. Big jumper here in the Big East. They've been on a nice hot streak here, jumping up 6 spots. I thought whenever, they were losing to Nebraska at home early in the season, and they lost Pop Isaacs due to injury for the rest of the year, I thought Creighton was done. I didn't think that they were going to make the tournament, but man, was I wrong. Coach Greg McDermott deserves a ton of praise. I know that there are so many good coaches that are well-deserving of Coach of the Year this year, but Creighton's Greg McDermott, I know we all know he's a great coach. He definitely deserves some praise. At least I'm going to give him a few seconds of it here in this video because, wow, he's done a phenomenal job losing Pop Isaacs and a rough start to the season. Now they're back into the top 20 and almost looking like a lock for the NCAA tournament. Number 21, we do have Michigan jumping up 4 spots here. They've won about 4 games in a row again after, having a rough little patch, and they're back into the top 25 for me here at 21. 22, we do have Ole Miss, a nice week, beating Kentucky and also going on the road and beating LSU in comeback fashion. So 2-0 week in the SEC, that'll jump you up 11 spots, and one of them being against Kentucky. Very, very good week. 23, we got UConn dropping 2 spots, losing to St. John's early in the week, or not early in the week, but on Friday. That was an awesome game. St. John's was able to hold on strong and get the job done. So UConn still in the top 25, but here at 23. Number 24, also in the Big East, dropping 6 spots. They're on a 3-game losing streak. I didn't want to drop them this far, but they still have a phenomenal resume, but because they're on a cold streak, they had to drop in the power rankings, so they're down here at number 24. But I look for a huge bounce back week here for Marquette and really for the next few weeks to come because they got through kind of the hardest part of their in-league schedule. Next up, we do have at number 25 the Kansas Jayhawks, and they got a big win at home against Iowa State. Looked like maybe the best game that they played since the beginning of the year where they beat Duke. And then what do they do to follow that up? They lose on the road to Kansas State. And I know that's been kind of a hard place to play. Kansas State's been, kind of sneaky. Beat West Virginia at home, beat Kansas at home, and then went on the road and beat Iowa State as well this year. So Kansas State's been sneaky. I get it. It's a rivalry game, but that's one you need to win. If they were able to pull that off, I was looking to maybe jump Kansas up quite a bit, back into the top 20 for sure, but they're down 1 spot here at number 25. Number 26, we do have Maryland dropping 4 spots on a 1-1 week. I've been very impressed with Maryland this year. I really didn't want to even drop them 4 spots, but there were other teams that I felt like were deserving to be ahead of them. Number 27, we do have Mississippi State jumping up 1 spot. 1-0 week, winning on the road at Georgia. That is not an easy task to do. Teams like Kentucky weren't unable to do it. Tough place to play. Mississippi State was able to go into Georgia and get it done, so very impressive win there, and a much-needed win there for Mississippi State. St. Mary's down 8 spots. It's tough. They only lost 1 game. I think it's their first loss in conference play. It definitely is, and that was the San Francisco, and a very close game as well. And they bounced back, blowing out Oregon State, which is a really good win, so I didn't want to drop St. Mary's this low. But they're here at number 28. I expect them to be back to the top 25 within the next few weeks. Number 29, we do have UCLA jumping up 3 spots. Good week, including a win over Michigan State. Huge, big-time win in the Big Ten. They're up 3 spots, 29. Utah State staying strong. Them and New Mexico staying there at 30 and 31 out of the Mountain West. I feel like those are appropriate rankings for them at this point. They both went 2-0 in their leagues this week and did what they were supposed to do. 32, we do have Illinois dropping 5 spots. And Illinois, man, lost to Rutgers this week. Just not that good of a loss. They kind of needed that one against Rutgers. I feel like if they would have got that one, they would have been closer to the top 25, somewhere around where Maryland's at, but unable to do that, so they're down here at number 32. Number 33, we have Nebraska, my only unranked team that wasn't even on the watch list last week. They should have been because they were starting to heat up, and they continued to heat up, but I was unsure about them because I feel like they could be on and off, and they were on a huge cold streak to start Big Ten play. But wow, they are on a nice hot streak right now, and they definitely deserve to be in the Power 35, and I think that they work themselves back into a NCAA tournament spot, and you guys would know that if you guys watched the bracketology that I did post yesterday. Feel good about Nebraska ball being back into the tournament right now, and they're back into the Daniology Power 35 on a nice little, I think, 4-game win streak now in the Big Ten Conference. So here at number 33, Nebraska ball looking to try to get their first ever NCAA tournament win in program history. Next up, we do have at 34, Wake Forest. Wake Forest has been on a nice little 3-4 win streak themselves there in ACC play. They're up 5 spots from the watch list up to number 34. And then we got Vanderbilt here at number 35. 1-1 on the week. They did lose to Florida, who is a top 10 team here at number 6, so not that bad of a loss, but they also got a win this week as well. So 1-1 week in the SEC, and your only losses to Florida, I feel like didn't really deserve to drop. Kept them here at number 35. And watch list teams that I'm looking out for to possibly make the Daniology rankings next week. We got VCU out of the A10 Conference. They were in it a couple of weeks ago. They were in the watch list last week. Another 2-0 week and an impressive win over Dayton as well. So looking out for VCU to possibly jump back into rankings next week. UC San Diego, big win over UC Irvine this week, and definitely in a mid-major to keep my eye out on as far as making the rankings. SMU out of the ACC, they kind of lose the big games, but they win enough to where they're kind of on the bubble of the NCAA tournament. So if they can get on a nice win streak, they could definitely possibly make it back into the rankings. Ohio State was on a nice kind of little streak. They're on and off. I don't know if Ohio State will be able to make the rankings next week, but if they have a 2-0 week, it wouldn't surprise me if they do make it. Georgia was on the watch list last week. Their only loss was to Mississippi State this week, so I decided to keep them on the watch list. I think they're a good enough team. West Virginia went on 1-1 last week. They were on the watch list last week. They're staying here this week as well with a loss to TCU, which is not a good loss, but it was on the road, and then a win against Utah. So they need a big week next week to be able to maybe make it back into the rankings. Baylor, same thing, lost on the road at Texas Tech, but got a win at home. 1-1 week, Baylor staying on the watch list, and then Gonzaga entering the watch list as they continue to rack up a couple more wins in the West Coast Conference. Maybe going to try to get back into the power rankings before the end of the regular season. So let me know what you guys think about my rankings, guys. Who should be higher? Who should be lower? Who got snubbed? Is there anybody else that should be on my watch list for me to keep my eye out on for next week? Let me know down below in the comment section, guys. Leave a like if you guys enjoy, and make sure you guys subscribe if you guys haven't already. We're on the road to 10K. Let's try to get there by the end of March Madness. We got a ton of college basketball content coming your way, and you guys, thank you so much for watching.